we forget about the things that we wrote down. It's still sitting on the piece of paper. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do about the things that you wrote? Are you going to begin to execute it? How are you going to breathe life into that idea? Well, hello, and thank you for joining our channel. Welcome to She Inspires. So tonight we are going to talk about execution. Yes, we're going to talk about execution. Oftentimes we have our ideas, we have our goals and things that we want to achieve, right? And we begin to write it down on a piece of paper. And so we say, okay, yep, I'm going to move towards those goals. I'm going to execute these goals. But guess what? Everything that we wrote down on a piece of paper from January, how many have actually gone back to that paper and began to execute what you wrote? How many has executed it? Or is it still written on a piece of paper? Is your thoughts still on the paper? Is your ideas and all of your goals, is it still sitting on your paper? Or have you began to move forward to execute it? So I want to talk about that because oftentimes we feel comfortable in writing down and having it here. We want to have it here, what we want to do, right? We begin to think about the things we want to achieve in life, the things we want to pursue, and oftentimes obstacles will come. Situations will come. Our life will take a turn. Something will come and interrupt our life, and all of a sudden we forget about the things that we wrote down. It's still sitting on the piece of paper. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do about the things that you wrote? Are you going to begin to execute it? How are you going to breathe life into that idea? You know what execution means? Execution means to be able to carry out a plan to full term. Execution means you have to breathe life into those goals, into that initiative, to that idea. Execution means you have to put it into action, point blank and period. How are you going to breathe life? How are you going to bring it to life? How are you going to see? Listen, we have to get to the place where we give it motion, because oftentimes it's just sitting on the piece of paper and it's just stuck there. That's as far as it goes, is on the piece of paper. Your ideas is on the piece of paper. Your goals is on the piece of paper, right? So the question is, what have you done? What have you done to move and to push that initiative, to push and to give it life? Because guess what? It's stuck on that paper. It's dead. It's dead on the paper. And it's time to give it life. You need a starting point. At some point, you're going to have to start, right? Put it into action. Put it into action, the things that you desire to do. Not only that, but carry it out. Don't get stuck in a rut. Yes, obstacles are going to come. Yes, there's going to be some hiccups, but don't stay there. One thing about life is filled with trials and tribulations, right? There's a lot of things that's going to come our way. There's a whole lot of things that's going to interrupt our life, but they're called trials and tribulations. And they're there to test you. So if we didn't have tests in place, how would we grow? How would we move? How would we advance? How would we evolve if there were no tests that were created to help us? Everything you see had to go through a trial in order to reach perfection. The thing is, many people are hindering themselves because they are afraid of failure. They're afraid of failing. But you know what? In order for those things that's here to be in motion, to be executed, in order for you to put those things into action, you got to put it to the test. You got to move. Put some movement to your words. Don't just say it anymore. This is a season now where no more stagnation, no more procrastination, no more hindering yourself, no more limiting yourself. It's time to execute. It's time to move. It's time to do what you say you're going to do. Okay? Nobody's going to do it for you. So you have to put it to the test. You will never know how it's going to pan out unless you put it to the test. And if it doesn't work, at least now you have something to move towards. You have something to work with. You have something to work with, and you have something to move forward with. And now you can be able to analyze You can begin to analyze where you went wrong. What is it that I have to do to improve in this area? What can I do to perfect in this area? You have something to work with, but if you never begin to put it to the test, move with action, begin to execute those things, you'll never know. It's just going to become dead. It's going to remain stagnant. And you're never going to be able to execute what it is that you have here. How many of you know that there are many millionaires that had to start somewhere? There are many people that are successful that had to have a starting point. Everything has a starting point. Everything has to begin somewhere. So you have to give yourself the chance. Give yourself a chance, because your future self is waiting on you, okay? She is waiting on you. He is waiting on you to show up. Put those things into action and no more limiting yourself. It's time to get it going. Just start. Just start. Don't limit yourself anymore. Don't hinder yourself. Don't keep putting excuses in the way, because all excuses is your doubt, is your fear. There's a whole lot of things that is stemmed from excuses. Look at those excuses and ask yourself, why do I keep making excuses for myself? It could be something health-wise. It could be a business initiative. It could be anything that you want to pursue on this year. Do it. Go for it. Don't limit yourself. Be intentional. Go for it. Test comes to grow you. Tests and trials come to test you, to see where you are, to see where you need to be, to see what needs to be adjusted. I want to talk about execution, because oftentimes we say we want to do something and we don't do it. We have all of the ideas stuck in our head, right? Some of us have it lodged in our heart, but it's as far as it goes. We do nothing to push it. We do nothing to execute it. We do nothing to, put it into action. But sometimes we think about it, and then what? It just stays in our heart, right? We can even think about it, and then we begin to speak about it, right? We think about it, we speak about it, we write it down, but that's as far as it goes. So I want to say, it's time to execute the plan. How are you going to know how it's going to pan out unless you try? Everything that you see around you that's created had to go through a test first. It had to go through a trial. Start somewhere. Take the time to gather information. Take the time to study. Take the time to do research. One of the things that you need to do is stop comparing yourself to other people. Compare yourself with yourself. What do I mean by that? Begin to compare where you are right now to where you want to go. Oftentimes what happens is people begin to compare themselves to those who are already successful. The reason why they've reached their goals, guess what? Is because they worked hard to get to their goals. So now it's time for you to work hard to get to your goal. This right here, work on this. Work on the things that you say and begin to execute what you say. Begin to execute the things that you desire to do. No longer just writing it on a piece of paper. Begin to execute, beginning to push, begin to put it into action, begin to put it into motion. Come on now. It's time to move. It's time. What is it that you say you want to do for this year? This year is moving. Things are shifting quickly. So we don't have time to linger. We don't have time to ponder. We don't have time to hesitate. It's time to move your feet. It's time to execute the plan and all of the things that you have set forth to do. It's time. And guess what? What you do is not going to look like what I do. And that's why I said don't compare yourself. Trust the process. That's what I want to leave with you. Trust the process. Even those who run a race had to go through a process before they hit their goal, before they reach the finish line. They had to go through the process of discipline, right? They had to go through the process of building themselves up to run. Okay? What have you done to prepare yourself for where you want to go? What have you done to prepare yourself to execute your plans? You got to be able to put it into motion, but you got to have a strategy. You got to have a plan in order to move towards it. So that's what I want to leave with you. It's time to execute and trust the process. Don't hold yourself back anymore. It's time to move. And so when you go through those tests and you pass the test, celebrate your wins and keep on going. So one thing I will say is to be open to change. Adopt a growth mindset. Shift your mindset. Shift the way you think. We all go through seasons, all right? Many of us go through different seasons. You cannot expect to stay in the same season. Seasons change. Seasons do change. And oftentimes we want to be stuck in the summer, spring, right? We don't want to go through the fall and the winter. We don't want to have to endure the cold, right? Those cold seasons. But you have to understand that seasons do change. You have to understand that even though your season has changed, that doesn't mean that God has changed. Your seasons have changed, but it doesn't mean that God has changed in that season. But you have to be prepared and you have to be ready to endure every season. How do you prepare yourself for the season? How do you prepare for the winter season? You begin to get the gear, right? You begin to get all of the things that you need for the winter season, right? You begin to make sure that you have all your warm clothing. You make sure that your car is in check, that it ain't gonna break down, that you have your oil change, right? How are you preparing for the winter season? You make sure that you have all of your vitamins, right? That you get your immune system, because colds and all of that is more prone to the winter season. So you prepare yourself for the winter. You prepare by getting that winter jacket. You prepare yourself by make sure you have all the necessary means so that during a snowstorm you'll be prepared. And so that's how you prepare for your seasons. You have to begin to prepare way in advance. Don't wait until the winter season in order to prepare for that season. So are you ready? Are you ready to take that step? Are you ready to move? Are you ready to execute the plan? I hope so, and I hope I said something to inspire you to get going, to get yourself in motion, to be intentional about what it is that you desire. Okay, and so thank you once again for those who have subscribed to the channel. I'm going to be looking forward to your feedback and your comment. And so thanks once again, and I will see you on my next video.